Take it from the audience's perspective.
Well, after that.
I believe Castro Street is already a very prosperous street, so we really have not many spaces left behind. So we have to expand to Montpelier Boulevard or some other parallel streets. However, as I have some retail background, I do know that with the bubble up of .com in the market, I mean real estate market and also stock markets, I do see a lot of people are looking for new opportunities to have stores open. So size is not the problem. I think smaller size on Castro Street is possible. Some places we can put a little coffee shop or a little sandwich shop or flower shop or printing shop. Everything is okay for a smaller place. So I really think we still have a lot of places for new vendors, new merchants to find a place on Castro Street. Thank you.
Someone say turn off yourself. We have about 16 questions here, and 8 of them have to do with the subject of development in one shape or another. So I'm going to ask 3 development questions in a row. One is a more general question, one is specific to Old Mountain View, and the third one is specific to the Mayfield site, just to get your talking points in mind. I'm collapsing 4 questions into this first one. It's really sort of a double-barreled question, but here we go. And I'll be happy to repeat this for those who are not the first to answer. By the way, I'd like to go John, and then skip to Chris, then John, then Tom. Oops, wait a minute. Yeah.
Well, I'll let Tom go first, that's fine.
No, John. All candidates, how do we balance affordable or more housing with increased traffic and congestion citywide? And what should the City of Mountain View do to balance increasing housing needs, existing open space, and employment with an eye towards climate change and AB 32? So,
you guys right there.
Hey, you combine 4 questions under 4 questions.
So let me rephrase and reframe. Affordable housing and balance within the context of climate change. So the big picture about development and climate change across the City of Mountain View. And we'll set the timer for 1 minute, starting with John.
Thank you. Okay, affordable housing. Affordable housing to me means a lot of, I'm going to have to talk quick, I guess, a lot of options. We just don't have, when people say affordable housing, do they mean subsidized housing? Do they mean, low-cost housing? So I think we're talking about affordable housing across the whole board, so that means we need to offer options. And one of those ways to do options is, or to place those options is along major transit routes. El Camino, rail, trains, buses, etc. And how you can balance that is by using higher density. You're able to free up open space, put those higher density projects along transit routes, and therefore you have that balance of open space, transit, economic or climate change, and affordable housing. But it's very important that you spread out the projects throughout the area and make sure that they're compatible with that area. So you don't want to have one area high dense. You want to spread those options throughout the city. And I want you to remember this, Tom. I quit on the bill.
I think all these things can work together. I think what's really important is the planning piece of it, and I think that's why the general planning process is so important. Because when you're talking about affordable housing, most people are thinking, moderate to high density. So I think what you have to do is you have to plan that appropriately. You have to incorporate the Healthy Villages concept that the Environmental Sustainability Task Force has talked about. You put these things, these higher densities near public transportation, major roadways. For a longer-term planning perspective, you make sure that you mitigate congestion by kind of improving those roadways, making them more biker and pedestrian friendly, and incentivizing the use of public transportation and alternative forms of transportation. And then I think you make sure that you're creating a certain percentage of open space with each of those high-density developments that people can go to and use appropriately. So I think it really comes down to being really good about the planning process. I think all those are actually can work together. I don't think we have to have too many trade-offs there.
The affordability comes through density, lower medium density, like the multi-family units, located along transit corridors, such as the Caltrain line, the light rail. You leverage the air quality by having people like I do as much as I can, and ride the train, take the bus. In terms of air quality, economy, congestion, and traffic, broadly speaking, that's the way to do it. One thing that some of us on the Planning Commission have not been so certain of is we're still out-of-centric, regardless of all the incentives that are put in place. And whether or not we'll have to look at the traffic analyses to make sure that when we get combined adjacent projects, multiple product projects, that the overall traffic isn't really any worse than what the consultants tell us.
Great. So I'm going to touch on some of these as quickly as I can. So affordable housing, you know, for some people up here, affordable housing is like the BMR program, which means, you know, we force a developer to build $1 million house and then sell it for $300,000. I don't think that's a good idea. What I think is a better idea is to make sure we look at different product types. When I moved to Mountain View, I rented a townhome, and so when I got ready to buy, you know, a lot of my friends went across the bay to build Peterson Fremont homes. I bought a townhome. People said, "You're crazy. They don't appreciate that," and they were kind of new products. But I said, you know, the good thing is I don't have to mow a lawn on the weekends. I have landscaping. So my wife and I are busy. So what I've tried to promote is different housing types. And again, part of that means, in a sense, higher density, but it also means the market demand is changing. And people, you know, the way you free up housing is just like I bought after my more expensive house, that freed up a smaller house and so forth. And so I think it's a good idea to make sure we keep people mobile. One of the things I'd like to work on is the forest. 1 minute, quickly, thanks.
Okay. I'm not going to address the affordable housing piece at this moment. I want to speak more to the balanced growth and environmental aspects. We need to balance our commercial growth, our office and industrial, with our housing. If the community has chosen a slower residential growth, we shouldn't be building 1 million new square feet of office space. Office really isn't a generator. It doesn't generate sales tax, which is where we get most of our revenues from. At the same time, if we don't have housing here, then but we do take the jobs, people have to commute here from very often faraway places like Tracy. And as we've gone into having a sustainability culture in this community, to me it seems irresponsible to, one, either not build housing, but have more office and industrial and commercial, but then you don't have the sustainability. If you want to have the office and industrial, you got to have more housing. And so we really need to balance that growth.
I guess I frame this within the starting point of where we are today. We are a city of 12 square miles. We have about 73,000 people, and we have about 3,500 housing units in the pipeline. Most of those are multi-family homes, just a handful of them are single-family homes. And then before that pipeline, we've also added about 1,300 units of housing. So I think the focus is on affordable housing because that's the area where we really have not been very successful. When I look at the many units we've installed or in the pipeline, only a handful are actually considered below market rate housing, about 5 or 6 of them. So clearly whatever we're doing isn't working. So I think that we need to create a specific tactical plan to get new units instead of fees. And we need to incent our developers to do that. I also think when we look at affordable housing, I'm talking about the residents that live here today in affordable apartments.
Sure.
So I'm going to try to tackle the climate change portion of the question. One of the things I would really work towards is making sure that we incorporate green building practices in the development, higher density, lower density, what have you. I think we really need to make sure that we're doing that as a city. Also look at mixed-use developments in a way to be able to have open space and development kind of balance each other out. Having mixed-use developments where you have retail at the bottom, apartments at the top, and still have open space around that.